Okay, so today we're going to talk about how we can add CSS in order to style our web pages a little bit better. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. CSS is used to create style and structure on a website. And right now you don't have to be taking notes. You're going to code along with me in just a second. So I just want you to see, now the left is Instagram without a CSS and the right is Instagram with CSS. So you can see that the left is not very exciting. It has an unordered list here. It has a couple of images here that show up. It has two of these boxes right here which you can create in HTML. But it's not very exciting here. When you add the CSS to it, these boxes that are shown right here, they end up being centered with the Instagram logo above it. You see the images of the different phones, Instagram on different phones, and you see the links here. So CSS adds structure, so it allows things to be put into a certain place on the web page, and it also allows style, like it allows you to format the text using different font families and add color and logo. Here's the website Steam to the left is without CSS, and then with CSS. So you can see it makes a huge difference. Every once in a while you'll see a website load up without CSS and you'll wonder what's going on. And if you refresh it, what's happening is it's just not loading the style sheet that's associated with the HTML. Okay, so CSS looks different than HTML. It's a different deal in and of itself. There are three main parts to a piece of CSS. There is a selector, and this is going to refer to the paragraph tag. So this right here is telling everything in the paragraph tag, everything with paragraph tags around it, to make the text color red. Okay, so there is a selector, that's called a selector. This is a property, that's what you want to actually style, and then this is the value. And you'll notice that unlike Python, where we use strings to surround the, or we used quotes to surround anything that was strings, like with the turtle, we had to put quotes around the any color. We don't have to do that in CSS. So we have the selector telling it what tag to start to style, the property that you want to style, and the value that you want to put in that style. And this semicolon here, that's a colon are the two dots. The semicolon is a dot and a comma. That is required to be at the end of each line of CSS. And I'm going to go over this in just a second. We're going to add some CSS to our file. Okay, the selector, so this is just a quick note of what I just said. The selector determines which tag we're going to style. The property determines what about the tag we are going to style, and the value tells how we're going to style it. Okay, note that there's curly braces here, and the use of semicolon is required here. So there's a colon here to separate the property from the value, and a semicolon after the value. Okay, so one thing to note is that if you say the property and the value repeat itself, it's going to actually only see the latest instance of it. So it's going to only use the last thing that you said. So if you ask the paragraph to the text to be colored red and then colored blue, the text is actually going to be colored blue. Okay, so we are going to take the basic thing that we started the other day and we are going to style it. So if you look at this right now, if I publish it and you look at what this looks like, you know, it's pretty basic. The heading sizes decrease the size of the font here. Otherwise, there's no specific font on any of these. It's just sort of the default font if I don't style it. The pictures, I'd like the pictures to be centered. And I'd like the headings to be centered, but I can't do that in HTML. Well, I could do it in a certain way, but it's more efficient to do it in something called CSS, which we were just talking about. So we're going to go, and you'll notice that every default project in Thimble had this little style.css area, and usually it starts with a body tag being, it'll say something like body. You'll go to yours and you'll see something like body. Just erase it. We're going to start clean here. Now, the first thing that I want to do is I want to try to style the H1 tag. So the way I do it is I tell CSS, oh, the first thing, sorry, before I even get to that, in the head of my HTML file, I want to type in these words, link, and then quote, rel equals, and then now quote, style sheet, like this, okay, and then space href is equal to, And then you're going to pick up this right there, which is the name of the style sheet. So it's just telling the HTML file to link itself to the style.css sheet in order to get its style from that. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is I want to say H1, okay, and that's going to tell the H1 tag whatever's going to be styled using the curly braces. So I'm going to open curly braces, close them. Whatever's going to be in the middle here, you can see that it's already highlighted on the right-hand side. It's highlighted H1, so it should know that I'm styling that. So I want to tell the font family, well, let me actually first do the color. So the color is interesting because when you type it in, Thimble suggests some color names. So you can choose a color name like this. The other thing that you can do is when you pull in a picture, these values here, when you pull in a picture to Thimble, Thimble picks up the top 4 or 5 color values that are in the picture, and they give you the values of the hex codes. So you could copy this, and you could go back to the CSS and use the hex code instead of a color name, and that will give it one of the colors that are in there. So that might look nice. Okay, the other thing that I want to do is I want to do text align center. And in order to get, so if you'll see that it started to suggest some things, I can use my up and down arrows to select other things, and then when I reach the item on the suggested list that I want, I press return, and it gets me that. And center is what I want, so I'll press return. And then I'm going to use a semicolon at the end. Okay, you'll notice that universe now, this text centered itself, right? And the other thing that I want to do is adjust the font size. So let's say that I want it to be 40 pixels, px. Okay, you'll see it gets bigger. And finally, I want to adjust the font family. Now, there's a certain amount of font families that come with, as suggested, properties of Thimble. You'll see that there's not that many. Cursive is one of them. I don't really like any of these ones. So what I do is I search, I do a Google search for web safe fonts right here. And this link right here is a pretty good one, the W3 Schools link. And they give you some web safe fonts here like Georgia, Impact right here. So if I go in and type in Impact, you'll see that it changes itself because the Chrome browser recognizes Impact as one of the font families that it understands how to display. So that's one thing you can do. I'm going to show you a tutorial later on how to use the Google fonts, which will allow you to use a lot more of them. Okay, so we have the H1 all stylized. Now let's say that I want to use almost the same thing for H2. So I'm going to copy this, I'm going to paste it down there, and I'm going to change the selector from H1 to H2. Okay, you'll notice that immediately this the solar system styles itself in the same way. And let's say you want this to be a little bit smaller to indicate that the solar system is smaller than the universe. Okay, so you can change that there. You can change the color to one of the colors in the solar system picture, maybe, if you'd like to. And so I picked up the hex value there, and I'll paste it right there. Okay. There's another way to get some more colors, but let's stick with this for now. And let's say that I want the same thing for I want the same thing for H3, so I Command C, Command V, my H3 is the Earth. All right, and I don't have a picture for the Earth, so I'll just keep the color as the solar system color, and let's say that I want to go down to 25 pixels right there. Okay, so I've styled all my headers. Now, what I might want to do is style I want to put a background color to this entire thing. So since everything is inside the body, I really want to style it. I want to style it above. That way, it doesn't interfere with any of the styling below. So if I said that I wanted the color to be blue, I don't want the color of the Earth to change, the heading of the Earth to change. And since that occurs later in the CSS, it occurs lower down than what I'm proposing the body style to be, then it won't impact it. Okay, I know that's a tricky argument, but if you have any questions about that, you can always ask me. So the body, let's say that I want the background color to be, let me pick background color here. And I kind of want it to be something like that. That's kind of a nice background color there. All right, that's really all I want to style with the body. I don't want to try to style the fonts because I want the fonts to be kind of individual as I go across. Now finally, let me style some of the stuff in the paragraph tag. Those are the little bits of information about each one. So all of them are contained within paragraph tags. Remember that when we were in our HTML, every time we wrote something about the object, we use paragraph tags. So I can style all that font in one CSS selector because they're in paragraph tags. If I wanted to style them individually, that becomes a little bit more difficult. We'll go over that a little bit later on. So let's say that I want to use something like a website font like this Palantino Linotype. Linotype, I think it's called. Okay, so let's just say font family right here, like that. And then let's also say that I would like the color to be let's see, cornflower blue. That's not the best, but we'll keep it like that, okay? And I can also change the font size if I want. Maybe I would like it to be a little bit bigger. Let's see what 18px looks like. That looks pretty good. All right. So, and I don't really want to center that because watch what happens when I center it. It kind of looks a little strange here. So it would be text align and center. They're suggesting that. So I press enter to get that. Let me publish that to show you what that looks like. So I update it. And then I refresh this page, and you can see that the changes have been made. So it looks better when the heading is centered, but when you center the text right here, it kind of looks a little strange. All right, we're going to learn how to deal with that a little bit later, but for right now, let's not do that. Okay, and finally, if I want to change the unordered list here, I can either use list item as a selector, or I can use the unordered list because each of them are contained within the unordered list and then also within the list item tag. So maybe I want it to have the same properties as the paragraph tag, so it looks like that. Okay, and maybe let's try the text align center here and see if it looks good. Okay, let me update this so that I can really see it on a full page here, and then refresh this right here. And that doesn't look so good because it's away from the bullet points. Let me take away that. All right, and that's how you use CSS to style. You're just going to style the font today, and we'll go over more stylized things a little bit later on. And if you want to have some more fonts and colors, I'll show you those in separate tutorials.